news and results as Honey Wrestling! It's baby! Yeah! Here we go again, it's a Manic Monday, and it's about that time once again for Laying the Rant Down officially. The weekend was a little busy. I wasn't able to get this in last night as well, as I was watching some Best of Super Junior stuff and got a little bit into New Japan Pro Wrestling's resurgence, which there will be tonight. A mega rant on that mega event. A lot of stuff coming out of that show. In fact, one particular thing we will talk about here as part of Laying the Rant Down in just a little while. Wow, just a lot of news here in Laying the Rant Down this time around. I'm glad I waited till Monday because a few things came through last night that is very tying into a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about here. So, wow, just where to start with the week in wrestling. This time around on this Laying the Rant Down, we're not going to be talking about anything really too much WWE here. It's going to be mostly AEW, New Japan, as well as a extensive recap of all the major injuries going on right now. So we got a lot to talk about here. We'll get into it in a second. Just want to give a quick reminder of what's coming up. Like I said, Mega Rant Monday, New Japan Pro Wrestling Resurgence from Long Beach, Los Angeles last night. We're going to talk all about that one. Also, I decided to wait on the top 10 takes of the best top 10 matches in AEW history until tomorrow on Tuesday on its regular slotted time. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday, and then we will close out the Wrestling Rants Control Center for a little bit with an extensive preview of everything going on in Las Vegas Wednesday on as part of Double or Nothing week. It's a lot of events. We're going to talk about them all so you kind of know what to expect with the content that we'll be dropping here at Wrestling Rants from Wednesday onward from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm looking forward to getting out of here for a while and catching a shitload of wrestling. You know it. All right. So, now that we got that covered, let's get into the news of the moment, laying the rant down. Let's get into our first piece of note here as I am trying to get my remote working. And the first point of laying the rant down that we're going to talk about is the announcement last week of AEW Collision on TNT. The logo looks awfully familiar. It looks a lot like Monday Nitro's logo from back in the day when it was on TNT from WCW. No shock there. I think that was completely intentional. They want a little bit of a nostalgia connecting this new Collision show on Saturday evenings. It also was the classic time where we would see WCW Saturday night. The only difference here is that this is 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, starting every week on TNT. Of course, back in the day, WCW was at the classic 6:05 Eastern Time slot. So a little bit of a difference on the time slot things, but generally they're trying to maybe pull in some of those old fans from WCW and from WCW's classic Saturday time slot in the fold here. Official word is that technically every week it will probably be the show kicking off in the arenas about 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. So you get probably a couple matches, dark matches, I'm figuring. The word is they tape Collision, and then after that, they are tentatively scheduled to start taping Ring of Honor after Collision every week. This will be live every single week. There was a big hoopla in the Warner Brothers Discovery upfronts last Wednesday, and we kind of thought that perhaps we would hear of a big multi-million-dollar deal, but that has not come out yet. So we're not really sure what all the pieces in place mean. One thing is for sure, All Access, the AEW reality show, will be dropping on HBO Max very soon. So that's I guess, the first step into streaming for AEW. But as of now, there is nothing official on the table for like a full streaming deal for AEW. There has been no real word on where All In sits as far as where this is going to be available. Is it going to be on pay-per-view? Is it going to be on streaming? Is it going to be on TNT and or TBS? Who knows? Nothing's been dropped about that. So a lot of still questions remain with Collision. That is for sure. Unfortunately, there's a lot more questions for Collision than even initially thought, because of the information that came out that CM Punk was not, I repeat, not included on the press release. They focused more on other AEW talent that were kind of, I guess, a little bit of a lack of popularity in the locker room, so I should say. That includes Miro, that includes Andrade, that includes Thunder Rosa. 3 of those talents, they were focused heavily in the promotion for Collision. And like I said, no CM Punk. You probably have all heard the news now about what was going on with that. We're going to talk about it in a second. But because of these outlying factors that you are trying to promote maybe a subtle brand split with this move with Collision, which I think is a bad idea, and I hope they roll back on that idea, especially if Punk does not come to terms with the situation that's been going on, which we're going to talk about. But I just think it's better to have all talent on both shows. I just think it would make for a much more, I would say from a live perspective, probably the fans would be a lot more open to getting tickets for these shows. Why I say that is because so far, all of the announcements on Saturday Night Collision for live events, particularly in the country of Canada, where there's going to be a multi-weeks run of Canadian shows with Collision, the ticket sales are really going rough. They did some ticket releases this past weekend. One of them was Toronto, the home of Forbidden Door. The night before, they're going to have Collision in Toronto as well, at the same arena. And they only got 1,200 people buying tickets in advance for, I mean, we're talking about a 18 to 20,000 seat arena. In addition, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, you think that number was bad in Toronto? 594 total tickets sold the first weekend. That is not good at all. These are supposed to be live big shows, and I think the lack of confidence in AEW's presentation on this supposed brand split kind of leaves people with a bit of a bitter taste in their mouth about what's going on here. Not a lot of confidence in what's going on with Collision. In addition, probably have heard this by now, but they have held back on announcing the debut episode of Collision. This was originally supposed to be June 17th in Chicago at the United Center because of the CM Punk tie-in, when he was supposed to be the focal point of this show. As of now, because of the situation with Punk, they have not announced this officially that United Center is set. And word is, that came down today as a matter of fact, and last night, that there is a tentative plan if CM Punk does not get connected to be a part of this show. They are going to go to Daly's place in Jacksonville, Florida, the kind of unofficial home base of AEW, for the first Collision episode. We will know by Wednesday which way it's going to go. Are we going to go to Chicago and United Center? Are we going to get CM Punk? Or are we going to go to Jacksonville and Daly's place and maybe a larger scale main event that they could promote featuring whatever talent they want from AEW? Because without Punk, my feelings is you really wouldn't have to separate this roster. We're all putting all of our eggs in a basket with the CM Punk situation, and I think it's really leading to a lot of bad discourse and a lot of bad, I would call it unofficial public relations kind of stuff, where a lot of the inside wrestling fans are just really turned off by this whole situation, me included. And that's coming from I'm a pretty big fan of AEW, and this whole situation has just been a fucking mess, for sure. I guess this would be a good time to talk about CM Punk and the situation involving him. Yeah, I guess first and foremost, Punk was originally scheduled for the Collision announcement. At the last minute, they took his name off of all promotional materials. And I know when the announcement came down, there was a big question mark on why Punk wasn't involved here. Some conjecture on the internet was that, oh, this was intentional. They're going to still have him debut, and it's all part of the plan, all this kind of stuff. I'm not convinced of that personally. This could be a work. It's very possible. I don't believe that's the case, but time will tell on this. But it has really affected things, no question about it. Same day as the announcement of Collision and the lack of CM Punk's name attached, Punk went on another one of those internet tirades about the internet wrestling community, about certain wrestling reporters, yada yada. He does this every single time that AEW has a big announcement. He seems to counter that with this kind of garbage, and I just don't understand it. So he had kind of a tantrum the day of the announcement, probably because he was pissed off because he wasn't included in the press release, because AEW pulled away on being involved with Punk, or Punk pulled away on being involved with AEW. Who knows? But the reason seems to be because of Ace Steel, the guy who was involved in the brawl out, bit Kenny Omega. It's all kinds of shit. He was supposedly trying to protect his wife. I don't know the validity of that. I guess none of us will ever know until we find out the true story of what happened in that locker room brawl. But long story short, it appears AEW kind of tentatively hired him back, which blows my mind for one. I guess as a way to placate the Punk coming back, or try to get Punk back. But they made the caveat with Ace Steel, apparently, this is reportedly, allegedly, this has not been confirmed in any big sources, but allegedly, Ace Steel was only hired back as a road agent remotely. Apparently, allegedly, Punk didn't like that, and either he walked out on the deal, or because he was pissed off about it, AEW maybe put up a front a little bit on it as well, and kind of held back on this whole thing with CM Punk and Collision. So who knows where it's at, but some news actually just dropped like about an hour ago before I did this rant from internet reporter Raj Giri, formerly of, I think he was part of eWrestling.com, WrestlingInc.com, excuse me. And he reported that lawyers from AEW have sent a notice to CM Punk with basically verbiage to say that he is in violation, breach of contract, and that if he does not agree to the terms, which is basically come back to wrestling, you are wanted to be a part and the focal point of AEW Collision. If you do not do this, you will be found in breach of contract, and we will start a lawsuit against CM Punk. That's big news, and if that is true, we're going to hear more about that in the days to come here. But take it with a grain of salt. So far, only one internet reporter has really mentioned this so far, so who knows what's going to happen. But that is kind of the latest where things are sitting with CM Punk and AEW. My thought is that I think on Wednesday they will announce that AEW Collision is in Chicago. I think this threat by AEW is going to put Punk in a corner a little bit. He's going to have to make a choice here. And if he wants to continue to make the money he's been making with All Elite Wrestling, he's going to have to move forward, come back to wrestling, give it one more shot. I'm not confident in how this is going to go, but I kind of think that's what's going to happen Wednesday. They're going to announce that the United Center will be AEW Collision, and then that leaves the speculation of will CM Punk return to AEW perhaps this weekend at Double or Nothing. That's my prediction. I think he's going to show up at the end of the show after MJF wins the Four Pillars match. Punk comes out and we get some kind of parody. If you remember from All Out last year, Punk beat Moxley. MJF came out, didn't say a word. I think that's what we're going to see here at Double or Nothing. MJF wins, and CM Punk comes out, doesn't say a word, and we slowly build perhaps to All Out in Chicago in September. Punk versus MJF. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see where they go with it. But that's kind of the latest on the CM Punk, I call it Drama Fest. That's really been going on right now. Oh boy, a lot of injuries to report coming out of the last, I'd say, week to 10 days. This is a major injury report we're going to talk about. First and foremost, last night in New Japan, Pro Wrestling Resurgence, Mercedes Mone, formerly known as Sasha Banks, appeared to perhaps either severely hurt her ankle, maybe break her ankle, sprain it severely. There seems to be something major that happened there. I have not seen the match yet, so I can't comment specifically on what I saw. All I know is what I've heard is she was trying to spot on the top rope. She slipped, she fell down, missed the ring apron landing, and fell all the way to the floor. Didn't catch herself properly, did something to her ankle. Match went to shit from that point on. They may or may not have even perhaps changed the finish. She was facing Willow Nightingale in the finals. Willow Nightingale got a weird spot where it looked like they should have counted 3. The ref pulled back on it. Then they did another spot with like a gut wrench power bomb, and that was the 1, 2, 3. And Willow Nightingale became the first ever New Japan Strong Women's Champion. But I do not think that was the original plan here, because Mercedes Mone was barely able to walk on that leg after that happened, and then they just went to the finish, and that was it. So I think they changed it up here. We'll know more as the week progresses what exactly happened here, but as of this point in time, word is that she's got a pretty serious ankle injury. She got rushed to the hospital. No official word, but I would not be shocked if this was probably a broken ankle, and that would suck because that would put her out of the action for quite some time, unfortunately. Other injuries to talk about are extensive here. Let's talk about a couple WWE injuries. Dakota Kai and Liv Morgan. If you watched SmackDown, not last Friday, but the Friday prior, you saw a spot where it appeared both Liv Morgan and Dakota Kai got injured. It was I guess you'd call it almost like a doomsday device, only Kai kind of tried to protect Liv Morgan by doing almost I guess you'd call it a meteora, as she was being held in the air and dropped terribly. Basically, Dakota Kai, word came today, she tore her ACL. Surgery tomorrow. Out for 8 to 12 months. That's almost a year. It's terrible news for Dakota Kai. That means probably more than likely here we're going to see the split between Bayley and Io Sky. Probably a program between those two, because we're not going to see Dakota Kai in any WWE stuff for quite some time. So Liv Morgan was also appearing to be hurt in that spot. But word was that she got hurt prior to that spot. Some sort of shoulder injury. They don't know the extent of it, other than they are stripping the tag titles from Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They announced that already. So some sort of shoulder injury for Liv Morgan as well. That apparently maybe happened prior to that. They showed on SmackDown that she took a spot in the corner by Dakota Kai, and according to them, that was where she got injured. I don't know if that's true or not, if that was just storyline kind of excuses for hiding a more legitimate injury, but she is out as well. Just terrible stuff all around. And apparently Kai got hurt because she was trying to be careful on the spot with Liv Morgan, because she knew that she was injured. And I know when she landed on that spot in question, it did not look good at all. Now we get into some New Japan injuries, and there's some extensive ones here, unfortunately. Mark Davis of Aussie Open had a torn meniscus. He had surgery on his knee already. Word is he might be back in 6 weeks or less, but they still, unfortunately, Aussie Open last night Resurgence. Kyle Fletcher unfortunately announced that they had to basically turn over not only the IWGP World Tag titles, but the New Japan Strong Tag titles. It's a huge blow to Aussie Open. Hopefully, Mark Davis can be back soon, and we might still, even potentially, this is very much a question mark, but we can maybe see these guys back at Forbidden Door. There was a rumor that they were going to work against FTR maybe. We'll see what happens with that. Because of that happening, the tag titles are vacated in New Japan, like I said. Both titles, both IWGP and New Japan tag titles, or New Japan Strong tag titles, they will be up for grabs at Dominion in early June in Japan in a match with House of Torture, Evil, and I believe it's Yujiro Takahashi against Bushimon, which is Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. Both titles on the line in that match. That match was originally scheduled to be a three-way involving those teams and Aussie Open, so it makes sense why they're doing it this way. Will Ospreay appears to maybe had done something to his right shoulder in the match with Tanahashi last night. Hopefully that's nothing serious, no real word yet. He was already battling an AC joint issue, ironically against a match against Mark Davis, the guy I just talked about being injured as well. That was part of the New Japan Cup. And then a couple injuries from the New Japan Best of Super Juniors tournament. Dan Maloney's working with a separated shoulder. He's just kind of trying to finish off the tournament in a couple more matches. He's looked great in this tournament, by the way. And then the other big one, Taiji Ishimori has some sort of cervical vertebrae injury that came out today based on a match on Sunday against Hiromu Takahashi, where he landed bad on a powerbomb spot. It appeared he was holding his shoulder. He was holding just like kind of this whole area. Wasn't sure exactly what was going on. Then he took a couple really stiff clotheslines from Hiromu, and in fact the second one was more of like a forearm, inner forearm shot with like maybe this part of your forearm as a clothesline spot, but he took it really rough and he was down. They called the match. That was it. And Ishimori announced today, or New Japan announced today, that Ishimori is out of the tournament. He only had technically one more match to go, but he was in contention of maybe getting the nod in the A block. He had 10 points, I believe. So if he would have beaten TJP on the final night, he may have been penciled in to be a part of the Final Four here. It's hard to say. So they're going to have to make some changes on the card potentially because of this injury. So yeah, just a lot of unfortunate injuries coming down the pipeline for not only New Japan, but WWE as well. All right, to close off laying the rant down here, let's get a quick update on Best of Super Juniors 30. We are now 8 shows in. We have one more event with just the, we have 2 more events. One event is going to be the final matches from the A block. The next event is going to be the final matches of the B block. I believe, finals of the A block is tomorrow, and then the other finals of the B block is the next day. So we're looking at Tuesday and Wednesday for those shows. Then we move into the semifinals where we talked about that before. It's the A block winner against the second place of the B block. And then also, the other match is the winner of the B block against the second place in the A block. So what we have at this point are the following. In the A block, what we have left of potential talent that can qualify is Speedball Mike Bailey, Leo Rush, and Hiromu Takahashi at 12 points. We also have Teton from CML at 10. Depending on how things work out on that final night of the A block, 2 of these 4 competitors are going to move on. Over in the B block, we have with 12 points, Master Wado, Yo, and El Desperado. And then with 10 points, Robbie Eagles. So anything can shake out with those 4 names as well. In moving forward, 2 of those will qualify. Just to give a quick update, here are the final single matches from each block. On Tuesday, we got Ryo Taguchi against Kushida, Titan against Hiromu Takahashi. That should be a great match, let me tell you. Doki, who's shown a ton of great work in this one, against Sho. Speedball Mike Bailey against Leo Rush. That's going to be another excellent match. And TJP gets a bye because he was supposed to face Ishimori. B block. El Desperado against Robbie Eagles. Yet another match I'm looking forward to. Yo against Kanemaru. Bushi against Francisco Akira. Master Wato against Kevin Knight. And Dan Maloney against Clark Connors. So those are your final lineups for the final nights of both each individual A and B block. Then the semifinals, I believe, are Friday, if I recall. And then the finals are on Sunday. And this has been a fantastic tournament. I've been keeping up with every night's events, and I've been enjoying the fuck out of this tournament. This has been one of the better Super Juniors tournaments in recent memory. Each night you get like 2 or 3 really strong matches, and we'll probably do a nice long-winded recap on this stuff. Maybe a top 10 takes of the best top 10 matches of the best of Super Juniors when we come back from Las Vegas and the tournament concludes. And speaking of concluding, that concludes Laying the Rant Down for today. Come on back later. We got a Mega Rant Monday where we're looking back at New Japan Pro Wrestling USA version of Resurgence. That was last night on pay-per-view. A lot of stuff going on to talk about with that one. All right, everybody. See you right back here from Mega Rant Monday later on as part of Wrestling Wednesday.